Hey everyone, it's Alex Martinez and
Stan Gendlin
with Real Estate Skills, and today we're covering how to flip a house for the first time. So if you're a beginner house flipper, you're in the right spot. We're going to be covering 6 steps on how to flip a house, 6 simple steps. And I'm here with Stan Gendlin, who's flipped over 1,000 houses, been involved with over 1,000 house flips over the last 14 years.
That's right.
And so I'm pretty excited to have you here because we're going to be riffing back and forth today on these 6 steps so that anyone who's watching will be able to flip a house at the end of this video.
Yeah, and I'd like to say too, besides having the 14 years of experience, and sure 1,000 sounds like a lot, I think more importantly I've done it in 3 completely different price points, 3 completely different states and markets, so this knowledge should apply to anyone.
Yes, Stan, you have a world of expertise on flipping houses. We've done dozens of flips together as well right here in San Diego. You've done them across other places. And what's great about that is we're going to be able to teach timeless principles in this video that work in any market across the United States.
Yeah, and when I got started this last time, starting my own company, I literally moved to a place I've never been before, didn't know anyone, didn't know the market, and just started this exact process from scratch.
And I do want to mention one little story. The first house flip you did when you moved to South Carolina, you lived in the basement for a little bit, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I got started, like most people, I didn't have a lot of money. And I actually had money to either buy a house to flip or buy a house to live in. Well, if I bought a house to live in, there's no way I can make money because I couldn't buy a house to flip. So I had to live in the basement of the house I was flipping so I could have a place to live while flipping. That was my only choice. And I had to borrow like the most expensive money, do whatever I needed to get it done. So
yeah, you have that whatever it takes mentality.
That's right.
That's what it takes to get it done. And one thing we'll be talking about in here is you don't need to know 100% of what you need to do, as long as you know the majority of what you need to do. And personally for me, as long as I know 51% of what I need to do, I feel confident in order to take action. And that's allowed me to progress, to evolve as a real estate investor, as opposed to thinking I need to know every little thing.
yeah, on that point, when I moved to start my own company to flip houses, yes, I've been involved with hundreds at that point, not quite 1,000, but I've never actually involved myself in the construction process. So I knew the 51%, how to find a house, how to analyze it, how to find the money for it, but I've never renovated it. So I knew enough just to start.
All right, let's dive into it and cover step 1. And step 1 is fund it. Now, most people think that they need to find the deal at first, but you know what? If you don't have the financing, if you don't have the money to buy the deal, you can waste a lot of time because then you'll find the deal and then you can't actually fund it. So step 1 is funding the deal.
Yeah, especially if you're going to go through the MLS Pro Wholesaler program where you're going to be finding a lot of your first deals on the MLS. Realtors, as part of their process, have to pre-qualify you as a buyer, which means having proof of funds or proof of some sort of financing. So even before you buy or find your first deal, you have to have that ready.
Absolutely. And so let's talk about the different types of financing you can secure. And let's conquer one fallacy real quick. Some people think that you have to have your own cash to buy a house, or you should use your own cash to buy a house. And one thing we've learned as investors doing a lot of deals is, let's say you did have $500,000 and you bought a house with that money. Well, now you're limited to only that house if you don't have other types of financing. You really inhibit your ability to scale. And so what we've seen from our experience is that the best investors have financing sources. So different companies and or people that you can borrow money from so that when you do one deal and you put $500,000 into it, guess what? You have another financing source and you can put money into that deal and another deal. Otherwise, if you just use your own cash, you're just going to be inhibited.
Yeah, it's kind of like with wholesaling, in rehabbing, the speed of capital is important. The more deals you can do, the more you can turn your money, the more money you'll make. So like you said, in your example, if you have a $500,000, in most places in the US, you can maybe do one project, right? And let's say you do one project, $500,000, you'll probably make a $50,000 profit. That's 10%. But if you used your money as a down payment for like 3 projects, you might make $10,000 less per project, but you end up with 120 in the same period of time as only making 50.
Absolutely, and that's a textbook example of scale, what you can do when you have economies of scale. And now, so let's dive into the type of financing that you can get. My first fix and flip deal that I did, I used a hard money lender. And I think for anyone watching this video, if you want to get started flipping houses, probably you're going to use a hard money lender or a private money lender. But a hard money lender, these are companies and or people in the business of lending money on your real estate, lending money for your deal. And they want fix and flippers, right? They want more business. And just a quick caveat, we teach a lot of our members, our community, to actually wholesale houses to get that transactional experience of working with other fix and flippers and cash buyers. And now, if you start wholesaling, you can actually use that as leverage and bring that to a hard money lender. So they see your transactional experience. They've seen you've done deals. They've seen you calculate an ARV for a property. Because when I was able to get one of my first hard money loans, I leveraged my wholesaling experience. And they're like, oh, this guy's legit. He's done 30, 40, 50 deals. Like, he's good to go. Like, he gets to our best tier of funding.
Yeah, not only that, like most hard money lenders care more about that you found a good deal, right? Because worst case scenario, they can take it back and still make money. So if you feel inefficient because you've not done any deals, keep in mind hard money lenders almost care more about the deal itself than your level of experience. That's why they're a great first fit for you.
Yeah, and it's an asset-backed loan. Like they're lending on the deal. And with a hard money lender, typically they'll be in the first lien holder position. So they're basically going to give you a mortgage for the property.
Yeah, not only that, they will not make you personally guarantee your personal house, your personal assets. So worst case scenario, things go wrong, the house goes back to them, and your personal finances stay intact. You're not going to lose your personal home, your personal money. These are non-recourse loans. What that means is the loan is only tied to this one house. It's not tied to anything else you own.
And when we talked about your journey to South Carolina doing that first rehab deal, you used a hard money lender?
Yeah, I mean, it was really expensive, but I didn't have any other choice. And, maybe I could have gone to some friends and family, tried to borrow some money, but, I felt more comfortable borrowing money from a company that professionally lends and they know what the risks are than putting my family and friends' money at risk before I had some success and felt comfortable asking them for money.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that trait about you, and I follow that. I second that as well. And there's so much learning from working with hard money lenders that you can get. How do they structure the deal? What type of paperwork do they use? And so when you're ready to evolve to private money lending or using private money lenders, you learn so much. You learn about the interest rates, the fees, everything along those lines. It makes you a better real estate investor in the long run.
Absolutely. Most people start with hard money lenders, and as time went on, a lot of these companies became more experienced, more professional, and some of the rates they were offering are actually lower than private money, even close to traditional banks. So when we got started, those hard money loans were 13, 15, 16%. By the time I got 5 years into this business and where rates are today, they were at the same price, if not cheaper, than like private money.
So let's talk about those rates. I mean, for anyone starting out, it might be 10, 12, 13, 14% annualized typically. So if you borrow $100,000, let's just say it was a 12-month project to keep it easy, 12% interest, you're going to pay $12,000 in interest on that $100,000.
Yes. And unlike a regular loan, they only make you pay the interest, not the actual $100,000 back. So when you buy your home and you have a 30-year mortgage, every year, every month, you're paying a little bit of interest and you're paying a little bit of the principal, which is the actual equity in the home you're paying down. Well, with a hard money lender, because they know cash flow is key for any investor, you only pay the interest. So the payment, although it's a higher interest rate, it could actually be lower than a mortgage for the same amount.
Yeah, perfect. So we have the interest, you're paying on a monthly basis, and it's just interest only for a lot of these lenders. So verify that. And then origination points. Talk about those, because that's important to consider when buying a property with a hard money lender.
Yeah, typically a hard money lender will charge you 1.5 to maybe 2.5, sometimes a little more if they're a smaller company that doesn't do a lot of loans. And what points are basically percentage of the total loan amount. So if you're borrowing $100,000, they might charge you 1.5% to 2%, which is $1,500 to $2,000, and that's cash you have to bring at the closing table to get the loan closed.
Yeah, and that's pretty much it on the fees. Maybe some have, some appraisals. Each hard money lender is a little bit different, so you need to build a relationship with them. You need to understand their fees. Some don't have appraisal fees. Some don't have any paper processing fees. But just know that the main fees are going to be those interest payments and then the origination fee.
And typically out of all of our lender types, besides private money and cash, they'll be able to close relatively quick as soon as 7 days.
Yeah, that's why I just always say they're in the business of lending money. Hard money lenders are in the business of lending money to fix and flippers. Yeah. And like it's congruent. It's easy to work with them. You're not talking to someone who doesn't know what to do when you bring them a distressed deal.
Correct.
That you can make a profit on. They're in this business of lending, and they want more business. Hard money lenders make money by lending money, and that's important to understand if you're just starting out, because you're like, oh my gosh, I'm afraid to raise money. I don't know who to get it from. They want to give you money if the deal is right.
Not only that, when you're getting started, a lot of times they'll provide you a letter saying you're approved for up to this much. Yeah. So you can use that when making offers, showing that you're already pre-approved.
Yeah, and especially on market, right? Like you mentioned earlier, agents are going to want to see that proof of funds. Yep. So one great way to get proof of funds is build a relationship with a hard money lender, and you get access to their proof of funds. They'll give you an approval to use their proof of funds up to a certain amount, which is typically going to be the purchase price of the property at the very least, so that the agent can see, Joe or Jane can bring all the money and close on this deal. And the great thing about hard money lending too is a lot of agents see it to be as good as cash. That's my experience. You're going to still close on time. When we're dealing with distressed property, typically you want a quick closing time. And a lot of these fix and flippers can close on your timeline. And so we like to look at hard money lending, and we'll get into private money lending, but that's as good as cash. All right, awesome. So let's talk about finding hard money lenders. How do you find them? So one thing we've done on the Real Estate Skills website, if you go to realestateskills.com and look in the resources section, you'll be able to see some of the top hard money lenders across the nation that we approve of, that we've worked with. Yep. So you can go there, check those hard money lenders out, and see if they lend in your state. Now, additionally, I also want to mention that you can find local hard money lenders in your area by attending Real Estate Investor Association meetings. These meetings, when I started out 10 years ago, I would attend all the Real Estate Investor Association meetings that I could within an hour or 2 hour radius. And this is so I could build relationships with fix and flippers, cash buyers, contractors, but also the people that are there are hard money lenders. And when it came time for me to borrow money for a fix and flip, I had already seen this hard money lender several times. He knew who I was. He felt comfortable with me, and was some of the easiest money I was able to get because he already knew me, right? I've shook his hand, we've ate some snacks together, had coffee, and I just can't stress the importance of building those local relationships.
Yeah, hard money lenders are a pretty common vendor at these real estate association meetings. They like to pay the group money so they can pitch their hard money services there. So they are a great resource and a great place to find them. And now we want to get into talking about private money. Private money is any company, individual, friends, family that give you money to do your fix and flip project.
And the difference about private money is that there's a lot more negotiation room. Yeah. You're typically the one, or at times you are leading the charge on the negotiation. Sometimes you can dictate the terms, and it's more about you presenting an opportunity to the private lender to make a better interest rate on their money than other investments. So maybe talk about the differences with private money and maybe how that's evolved for you.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely nailed it on the head as far as the being in charge of the negotiation. A lot of people that do want to invest in real estate but never have, they don't know what the interest rate should be, how much money to give you. Is it 100% of the deal, 80% of the deal? Ultimately, it's up to you to educate and negotiate. I could tell you though, from going to these real estate investment associations to find hard money lenders, one of the things I've also found is there's a lot of realtors in these groups. And these realtors not only want to list your houses for sale, help you find houses to buy, they're actually one of the best private money lenders in real estate. And the reason for that is they know the numbers. They sell houses every day. They look at houses every day. So unlike someone that's never funded a real estate deal, friends, family, anyone you work with, they understand the market. They understand housing. They know if you're looking to borrow money for a fix and flip deal, it is a great deal that you found. They'll feel comfortable and actually want to get the commission from you by listing it for you. So it's a great trade-off. You give me the money to buy a house. You can actually make money on commission by representing me to purchase it. But also, hey, if you give me money to fix and flip this house, I'll use you to list it and then you'll make another commission. And that way, sure, you're giving me money at a 10% or 8%. It's not as high as hard money, but when you add the commission, your annual return jumps to 15 to 20%. That's how I've used that strategy to find my biggest group of private money lenders, which are realtors.
That's an awesome golden nugget right there. Most people aren't thinking about leveraging realtors that you work with already that understand the numbers to borrow money from them for these deals. So that's another benefit of working on the market with these MLS deals. You know, it's something that we've started doing well over a decade ago, and then those relationships just continue to provide fruit for us.
Yeah, and another great transition from hard money to private money, if you're just getting started, sometimes you don't even have the down payment for hard money. Yeah. So if you meet a realtor who wants to give you money, you can use their money as the down payment for the hard money, right? So now they're still going to get the commission. You can offer them 10, maybe a little more of an interest rate because they're going to be in second position behind the hard money lender. So it's a little bit riskier of an investment. But when you combine their commission with a smaller investment to you, that means their return is going to be in the double digits, 30, 40%. Yeah. So it's a great deal for a realtor to help you get started. And also, if you don't have cash, you can use their money or another private money lender you find for the down payment for a hard money lender.
Yeah, that's great advice, great nuggets. And now with hard money, right, we might have a 12% interest loan, 2% origination points. The cool thing with private money is that you may have no origination points, so you don't have to pay anything to borrow that money.
Correct.
And then what are some of the rates you've borrowed private money at that can make it more desirable than hard money?
Yeah, I mean, it's gone anywhere from 6% up till 12%. So it really varies, but it depends on your negotiation.
Yeah, and that's a big difference. Like 6% is what, 50% of 12%. Like that reduces your costs on borrowing money on the deal. And when you're flipping a house, you want to mitigate risk. Like we talked about in the beginning, you want to be conservative. And so if you can reduce the interest rate by 50%, then that's just going to make your deal much more likely to win in the end. And so it's all these little things that add up to a successful deal.
Yeah, especially with some of my best, again, private money lenders were agents, and they were more concerned about getting a lot of deals. So if they lend to me at lower interest rates, that means I can make more money, more deals will work. Rather than trying to get 12%, and now the difference between 12 and 8 is a deal killer, say, hey, I'll give it to you at 8%, but I'll get way more listings. Yeah. So it's a win for everybody.
That's great. I love that. Yeah, negotiating, like, hey, work with me here, scratch my back, I'll scratch your back down the line. One piece of advice on private money lending that I like, that I've heard from a mentor in the past was, you know, Alex, you ask for money, a lot of times you'll get advice. Ask for advice, a lot of times you'll get money. And so if you're taking people out to coffee or to lunch, asking them advice on business deals, what you're doing, and you show this opportunity and how it's working for you, people that are high net worth individuals that want to lend and make money on their money may offer to give you money. Some of my first private money lenders were either friends who are older than me, entrepreneurs, people I met at networking events, and it really developed through like friendships and just talking about what we were doing, and they thought that flipping houses was really cool. They wanted to be a part of it, and they offered to lend me money. And so that's how it started for me on my private money lending journey.
Yeah, I mean, to be able to sit down with someone and say, look, you know, I'm finding houses at 30% below market value, right? And how many people wouldn't want to be in a safe investment like that?
And a lot of times, like, it's better than the stock market or better than a savings account. So that's the benefit to private money lenders. If they just have their money sitting in the bank account, losing money to inflation, this is an inflation hedge for them.
Yeah. And look, when you're getting started, if you need to offer a percentage of your profit too, that's totally okay. I've done that, right? Anything to get started. I mean, if I had to offer friends and family and other investors 10, 20, even 50-50, but I have no money out of pocket, I have no personal risk, to me that's fair sometimes, especially when you're new and getting started and just need to prove the concept.
All right, so hard money lending and private money lending are the top two money sources if you're starting out as a real estate investor who wants to flip houses. But also down the line, like, you're going to be using hard money lending, private money lending. Private money lending is actually where you want to be getting as much capital as you can to scale your house flipping business, because that's where you can get the 6%, 7%, 8% loans. So you may start with hard money lending, assist with private money lending, and then hopefully you get to the point where you have all private money lenders funding your deals.
Yeah, and I can tell you another golden tip. How many times I've talked to a seller that I want to buy their home, And this is a house that's not their personal home. They didn't really need the money. Maybe they inherited the house or it was a secondary house. And these sellers turned into my longtime private money investors. I still have people that I've bought their houses and they've been investing with me for 5, 6, 7 years. So you can turn your sellers into your private money lenders as well.
Boom. So you can raise money from almost everyone.
Everyone.
So that concludes step 1. That was fund it. And once again, we were beginning with the end in mind. We want access to that capital. We want to know how we're going to fund the deal once we actually find it. That way we're ready to rock. Now let's get into step 2, which is find it. So now that we've raised the money or we have access to the money, now we want to find the deal. And we'll give you 2 great ways on how to find deals. So something that's been tried and true for us for well over a decade has been the MLS offer system. It's been one of our favorite ways to get deals in our local market and virtual markets, being different markets across the nation. And even when you first moved to South Carolina, that first deal you did, you got it under contract from San Diego using the MLS offer system strategy all the way in South Carolina, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I found my first deal in South Carolina, and that's what actually sped up my timeline. Right, my timeline to move to South Carolina was my due diligence timeline. I only had like a week and a half of inspections, so I had to pick up and move to South Carolina before my inspection period was over. And we drove into South Carolina the last day of the inspection period. And that was my walkthrough.
Yeah. How long was that drive?
We did it in like a day and a half.
It's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
There we go. So the MLS offer system at its core, what it is building relationships and contacting listing agents on the MLS that are listing distressed property. Now, the Association of Realtors has came out with multiple reports at the end of the year. It's anywhere from 88 to 92% of all houses, all real estate transactions happen on the MLS or with a real estate agent.
Yep.
And so we've been using that as our main acquisition source for over a decade.
Yep.
And the best thing is, right, if you're starting out, you want to flip your first house, is that you don't need to spend $1 in marketing to be able to get an MLS deal under contract, which is why it's also so lucrative.
Yeah, I mean, if 9 out of 10 deals in the whole country happen on the MLS, why would you want to compete with all the people going after 1 out of 10, right?
Exactly.
Most people don't focus on the MLS because they think, oh, it's already listed, it's on the market, there's no opportunity there. But that's absolutely wrong. I still do deals every single year on the MLS because there's always deals there.
Absolutely, and we're always doing on-market deals. And today, as we've evolved, not only single family, but we do on-market deals for multifamily, commercial, all these different types of deals. And it's the same principles that if you learn with residential property, with houses, how to build relationships with agents that are selling distressed property, you can transfer those skills to the 176 unit apartment buildings. You can transfer those skills to the 90 unit office building.
Yeah, look, I could tell you the last 2 deals I bought in what I do, first being the last apartment complex I bought was listed on the MLS for $1.4 million, right? It was a multifamily deal on the MLS. Most people don't list multifamily on the MLS, so almost no one's looking.
Mm-hmm.
And I have all my search filters set up to make sure every multifamily deal on the MLS, as few as it is, comes to me. I closed on this deal on April 21st. It was listed for $1.4 million. Right, I offered and got an offer accepted at $1 million, a $400,000 discount. Right, so I found my last multifamily deal literally on the MLS.
Yeah.
And also our company and us, we just moved into our office building. The property was listed on the commercial version of the MLS. Right, so we made an offer. It was listed for $2.4 million. I think we got our offer accepted at $2 million. So the strategy works for commercial office, works for multifamily, works for single family.
Absolutely.
I still use it today.
Yeah, and we've gotten together dozens or well over 50 deals under contract, majority of them below the list price. And that's something that you need to understand. Most people's perception of the MLS, of an on-market deal, is that whatever the list price is that it has to sell at that price. And that ain't the truth. Stan just mentioned this property got below the list price.
For people to think of the MLS listing price is very different than the pricing we see every day in our lives. So you go to a restaurant or you go to a store, the price is what it is. When it comes to real estate on the MLS, the price is the realtor's suggested price. It is what they're advising their seller that they think the house is worth. But the market ultimately dictates what the value is. So if they list it for $200,000 and every single offer comes in at $150,000, that house is worth $150,000. So it's very different. It's just a suggested price by the agent, what they think it should sell for.
Absolutely. And one analogy I like to use is the Craigslist analogy of if you ever buy anything from Craigslist, like a couch, and let's say it was $500, you know you could offer $300 for that thing.
Absolutely.
You know, it's really like the list price. It is what it is. But then you add OBO, like or best offer to it.
Correct.
And that's the way to think about the MLS. It's the realtor's suggested price. And from what we know too, from working with a lot of realtors, not all of them understand every single thing about real estate. Not all of them know how to actually analyze a property or what the correct price is. And so if you're using the MLS and you understand that, there's a lot of amateurs out there that stray away from the MLS because they're afraid of that list price. So if you're not afraid of it and you put in an offer that you feel comfortable putting in, that you've analyzed, that allows you to get a profit on fix and flip deal, there's nothing lost from that. And one thing that we've talked about before, you shared with me, is if you don't feel uncomfortable submitting your offer, then it's not at a low enough price. And that's such a timeless principle.
Yeah, and look, a lot of times it brings a lot of value to the agent to explain to them how they can convince their seller why the price is not where it should be, right? So the last multifamily deal I bought on the MLS, it was listed at 1.4 million, right? But the interest rates had gone up so much. So I had to show the agent that if I bought the multifamily deal at the price that was listed, I would lose money every month. And I showed them how to tell their seller what the correct price was. All right. Also, a lot of times the information on the MLS tells you last time the home was sold and what the seller paid for it. So you know where their margin is. So that is another great way to negotiate those deals on the MLS because you know what they paid for it. In this case, I knew they paid, $100,000 less than my offer just a year ago. So even if I'm offering $400,000 below the asking price, they're still making money.
Mm-hmm.
And like you teach in the Pro Wholesaler program, I asked what was the motivation of the seller. And in this situation, the seller lived out of state. They had other businesses and they thought this was a passive, easy deal. Well, it wasn't. So they just wanted to get rid of it because they were literally driving to another state to manage it. So I found out the motivation, found out they were still going to make money at my offer, and I felt comfortable offering $400,000 below asking price.
There we go. Great point, Stan. And so the MLS is absolutely a gold mine. And if you're interested in the MLS offer system, how to do it, how to learn about it, we create a free training at realestateskills.com/training. And we'll actually put that link down below as well so you can check it out, learn everything you need to about the MLS offer system. And now let's talk about the next avenue of how you can find deals and get deals. Let's talk about wholesalers.
Yeah, look, especially when you get experience fixing and flipping houses and you build a lot of relationships and you've been known in your area to do it a long time like I have. I've been doing it for 9 years in my area. Pretty much everyone knows me that's in that space. I don't even have to go out and solicit any deals. If I don't want to, I don't have to go on the MLS or do any other marketing. I get deals sent to me literally every day. And that is the power of building residual relationships with wholesalers who are spending their time, money, effort, going out there, finding deals, filtering, negotiating, understanding what you as the buyer need, and sending you all those deals. I can pull out my phone right now and show you 4 different deals I've received in the last week.
Absolutely, Stan. And some ways to find wholesalers is you could join an awesome community of wholesalers like we have in our Pro Wholesaler VIP program. You can attend Real Estate Investor Association meetings. You can hop into other Facebook groups. I mean, they're all over the place. And the more active you are, the more rubbing elbows, attending these association meetings, the more these wholesalers will be able to find you. And also, if you just start closing deals too, some wholesalers will be calling you, just like how I've been reached out several times after I fixed and flipped property.
Yeah, and if you're already in the Pro Wholesaler VIP program, please get my info and send me your deals.
Awesome. So one thing I do want to mention though is how to treat wholesalers.
Yeah.
Because wholesalers provide a lot of value. I understand that, you understand that. And the more that you can educate a wholesaler or tell them what you want, the better deals that they can bring you. And also, what we teach in our program is that wholesalers, the best cash buyers when dealing with wholesalers, typically don't care what type of fee you make. I think it's really important to understand because if you're a cash buyer, meaning like a fix and flipper, if you're actually flipping property, you're a cash buyer, you're buying these properties for cash from wholesalers, but you want to treat that wholesaler with respect. If they want a $10,000 wholesale fee and now you're trying to skimp them and turn that $10,000 wholesale fee into an $8,000 wholesale fee, It's like you want them to get fed. You want them to make money. You want them to win on this deal as long as you're still hitting your minimum profit criteria. So that way they continue to bring you deals. Because if you try to go around a wholesaler that's getting 3 deals a month under contract and you go around them or you're always negotiating their fee, they're not going to want to work with you again. And if they can do 36 wholesale deals in a year, they're not going to work with you again. And what's that opportunity cost of a wholesaler not wanting to work with you anymore? So when you treat wholesalers with respect, and what you said, relationships, almost similar to realtor relationships that can continually bring you deals, that's when your business can really flourish. And I don't think most people understand the importance of relationships when it comes to wholesalers.
Yeah, I could tell you the second wholesale I ever did in South Carolina, I was going to make a $10,000 fee. I showed up to the closing, and this is the first time the buyer saw how much I was going to make. And he said, hey, I can't pay this price to you anymore. I'm only going to be able to pay you this. Because he now knows I'm getting 10 grand, and he tried to negotiate me down to $1,500, which he did successfully because there was nothing I can do. It was the day of the closing. I couldn't renegotiate with the seller. The seller was already there. So I ended up walking away with $1,500, but that buyer never got a deal for me again. And I wholesaled dozens of deals that same year. He will never get one again. So he tried to make an extra $5,000, but he missed out on hundreds.
Yeah, hundreds, maybe over 7 figures, million.
Yeah. Also, I think it's important to understand the thought process and motivations of a wholesaler, right? Their main goal is to make as much money as possible. So when they get a deal under contract, let's say for $100,000, they know that project needs $50,000, right? And it'll sell for $250,000. That leaves a $100,000 gap. So wholesalers' job is to decide how much can I charge between the $150,000, which is the all-in price, and the $250,000 sales price. What is the least that a buyer is willing to make? All right, so that is their thought in negotiation. But you want to work with wholesalers that'll leave you enough profit on the deal so you don't do one deal, make very little, and never want to work with them again. So you want to find wholesalers that leave enough profit in a deal to make you want to come back to them. I've had plenty of wholesalers that I've worked with where they try to squeeze the profit of the buyer. Yeah. And now it gets into this frenzy. All these buyers are showing up, overbidding each other. They end up making no money and go out of business. And there's plenty of wholesalers that try to squeeze the most they can, which is fine. For me, that's not a good fit. I like having those personal relationships where the wholesaler leaves me some money because they understand it's not guaranteed profit. It's risk that I take by buying the house, renovating it, having to wait 6 months. They get a guaranteed profit like that.
Yeah.
So that's why those relationships and understanding how each one of you works is important.
Perfect. I absolutely agree with you on everything, 100%. Obviously, you can start seeing there's this principle here with working with realtors. If they're lending you money and you give them the listing, you're scratching their back, you can get a better interest rate. And with a wholesaler, if they're able to give you a better fee or lower fee and you get a larger profit, there's less risk for you. There's always this value exchange going on. And sometimes it can go one way. You know, sometimes, hey, this wholesaler really needs to eat, you know, and you didn't want to pay $15,000, but you help them out. And you say, hey, the next one, maybe you bring that value back to me. Yeah. And it's just with all your relationships though, but the whole value chain is important just to continue to do that.
Yeah, I mean, last week was the last time I bought a wholesale deal from someone, and I literally told the wholesaler, hey, use this contract to assign it to me, because they weren't sure. When you send me the deal, I would normally redact or hide what your contract is with the seller. I don't need to know that. Yeah. Whatever you make is great for you, right? So I was helping this wholesaler how to do contracts, which attorney to close, because if I add that value to them, they will bring me deals forever.
Love it. So, okay, we covered how to find the deals, we covered the MLS offer system, and we covered working with wholesalers. Now let's go into step 3, which is analyzing the deal. So we want to underwrite the deal. What that means is understand how much the renovation costs are going to be. What's our purchase price going to be? What are the financing costs going to be? Are we using private money lending or hard money lending? We want to understand all the numbers as much as you can. Understand this is still an estimate, right? And the goal isn't to be perfect here. There's no perfect estimate, but to be as close as we can be so that you can make a decision whether you want to buy this deal. So now we find the deal. Let's talk about analyzing a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I'll say in the analyzing, there's a lot of ways to do it, and there's a lot of other experts that can help you do it.
Yeah.
Some people, like to use an appraiser, which is a traditional way of doing it. Some people always like to just let an agent tell them after repair value, especially if they're the expert in that neighborhood. we always rely on comparables and using the rehab deal calculator. But one thing I will always say, one of my guiding principles when analyzing a home for sale is I never analyze a home, no matter how much bigger or better it is, in the highest sale in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
For me, that is too risky.
Yeah.
I try to use the highest sale in the neighborhood as my ceiling.
Yeah.
Maybe if that house sold for top dollar, I can get that top dollar, but I don't try to estimate that I'll get a lot more, because especially if that above that last sale is where all your profit is.
Yeah, because once we start guessing how much above the highest price sale in the house, like our ARV will be, the after repair value, now you're just speculating. And what we don't want to do here is speculate.
Yeah.
We don't want to assume the market's going to keep going up. That's where we see, we've been doing this for a long time. So we've seen a lot of fix and flip companies lose their shirts and go under because they were never conservative. They were the companies that would find the highest price sale in the area and say, hey, mine's going to sell 25, 50K above that. And so we don't advise that. We want you to be conservative with all these numbers, and some good principles on determining the ARV. We want to use past historical sales, past historical properties, and compare apples to apples. So if we're dealing with a 3-bed, 2-bath property as our subject property, the distressed one that we got under contract, and it's 1,200 square feet, we want to find other 3-bed, 2-bath houses in the same area that are 1,200 square feet. You hit a gold mine if you can find model matches, like the exact same property. That's not always the case. Sometimes it is. But you want to find comparable properties that have been sold, renovated, typically within the last 6 months, and the closer to actual today, the better. If you can find comps within 3 months. But those are going to dictate the value of your property, what it can sell at once it's renovated. That's what I've been doing for 10 years, and that's my favorite way to do it. It's been pretty accurate.
Yeah, and I can say, being a very smart 2.8 GPA student, that the reason fix and flipping does so well and so many people can do it is because it's literally a formula that you follow. It's not a speculation. We're teaching you to analyze and use actual comparable sales to figure out closely what is the home going to sell for. Like you said, you will normally not find a model match, but a lot of homes will be close enough to where you can understand that the home will sell within a range of that home. Yeah. And that's why so many people fix and flip homes, because it's not a speculation. It's not that risky if you follow our formula.
Yeah, it's not rocket science. It's some basic math. And you just got to stick to some tried and true principles in order to get it done. So for the ARV, the after repair value, we want to use past historical sales of properties. The more the better. Yeah. Typically we want to stay within half a mile radius. Yep. We want to stay within the same neighborhood, same zip codes if possible. We don't want to be pulling comparables from 2 cities over that are completely unrelated. If our house is in a suburban neighborhood with neighbors on both sides, we want to find other comparable properties in a suburban neighborhood or the same neighborhood with houses on both sides. You don't want to go find a house on a farm with an acre of land and say, hey, this suburban house is going to sell with this acre of land, this house with an acre of land sold for. So just that's what we mean by apples to apples.
Yeah, and the way I've actually been underwriting and analyzing all of our deals is using the rehab deal calculator that we and our students use, and it gives you a pretty good idea of how close you're going to be to that sale price if you use, like you're saying, very similar homes in a similar neighborhood.
And so that deal calculator, we've been using it for 10 plus years. We use it to underwrite every single deal, get our numbers down to the dollar or the cent. That way we feel confident taking action on the deal. And let's talk about the other 2 big numbers. Next one being the repair costs. Yep. So we have to analyze for the repair costs. My favorite way to analyze for repair costs, once you get comfortable with your area, is a dollar per square foot rule. Yep. If we're dealing with cosmetic renovation, yep. So we're not adding square footage to a property. We're not necessarily fixing cracked slabs. We're fixing the carpets, the kitchen, the bathrooms, painting exterior, interior. Those are my favorite type of rehabs because they're quick and easy, or easier than harder projects or more lengthy projects. But also, if it's your first flip, we recommend you do a rehab that is mainly cosmetic. Don't bite off more than you can chew. And typically we see these renovations, cosmetic renovations, 30 to 50,000, kind of in that range.
Yeah, and look, honestly, as sexy as TV makes fix and flipping, if you find a good deal, you can literally just clean it up, throw on a coat of paint, and put it right for sale. To me, that's a renovation. And if you can make anywhere near as much as spending 4 to 6 months, that's probably a better strategy. Mm-hmm. So renovation, like you said, can vary from completely gutting a house down to the studs, adding a second floor, adding garages, to just cleaning and throwing a coat of paint.
Yeah, and this is where people can get lost in the sauce on the renovations. Oh my gosh, how much does an HVAC system cost? How much does this tile flooring cost? They get stuck in paralysis by analysis because they're trying to figure out what does every single little thing cost. And this is why I like the dollar per square foot rule. And typically, in San Diego, when we work on rehabs, it's ranged from $30 to $35, $40 per square foot of the property.
Yeah.
And now when we go to higher price points, that dollar per square foot number increases. But it's a really quick and easy strategy when you're dealing with a cosmetic renovation to quickly analyze your repair numbers. I'm talking about in 10, 15 seconds.
Absolutely.
Then you can put something under contract right away. Most people get caught up and I've seen people spend days, weeks trying to analyze repairs on a property, and then they're wondering why they don't get any deals under contract. Right. They can't underwrite it quickly.
Yeah, and look, sometimes you might have to do that if it's a massive project.
Yeah.
But a lot of times you don't have to do a huge renovation to get a nice profit. And unfortunately, a small renovation is not sexy enough to be on TV.
No.
Most of my biggest profit deals are where I did the least amount of work, right? Because it's when you analyze and choose which option to do, whether it's the wholesale, which is just clean it up and sell it, which is a small renovation, or a big renovation, I also consider time, right? If I have a lot of projects and I can make a quick $20,000, $30,000, or I have to renovate for 6 months to make 40 or 50, is it worth giving up $20,000 to make that kind of money in just 30 days?
Yeah.
Probably. So yeah, there's a lot of ways to analyze and make decisions on how much work you should do to fix and flip a house.
Now that we have the ARV, we have the repair costs. It's kind of like a waterfall. Like I like to put the ARV at the top.
Absolutely.
Now we have the repair costs. And then we have our purchase price. So when you're finding the deal, you're negotiating, you're able to do a lot with those three numbers, because now if you understand your purchase price, so let's say you've used the MLS offer system, you negotiated with the agent, you got it under contract. Now if you've talked to hard money lenders or private money lenders, you can calculate your interest rates. You can actually Google how much does insurance cost for a house in my particular area, and roughly figure out the rough costs and how much profit you can make from this deal and if it's worthy to take down.
Yeah, and also just a quick tip, we can use the 10% rule for closing costs. When you add a realtor commission, taxes for the time that you've held the property, utilities, insurance, that comes out to be about another 10% you take away from that top number as a quick guide to how much you'll end up with profit.
One of the best sayings in real estate is you make your money when you buy.
Correct.
Right? So that's what we're doing.
100%.
We're making sure we make our money when we buy, and we're not hoping that the market goes up. There's no hope here. We're trying to eliminate hope.
Yeah.
We're trying to have as much certainty as possible and eliminate uncertainty here, so that you're not guessing you're going to make money once you buy this deal. That's any deal that I felt like that, where like, oh man, I hope that the market increases and this profit turns from 20 to 40,000. It stirred me into trouble, because when you do a renovation, things come up and typically don't go to plan exactly. And so one deal I had when it was 20,000 of profit, I hoped that it would reach 40,000 of profit for the sale. Guess what? It needed a new HVAC, which we overlooked. That happened. And then it sold $15,000 less than where we thought it was going to sell at. And it was a break-even deal that took 6 months.
Wow.
And wasn't fun. And I shouldn't have even done that deal from the analysis. But that's why you want to be conservative. If I wasn't conservative, I should have just wholesaled that deal, made $5,000 or $10,000,
Correct.
and not have 6 months of break-even. And I got a few extra gray hairs because of it.
Yeah, look, when you're getting started, one of the simplest rules of thumb I'll say is that you should make $1 in profit for every dollar of renovation you spend. Yeah. That usually gives you enough contingency in case things go wrong, and things don't even have to go wrong for that number to go down, right? You might list a house and get an offer for the exact price that you thought, but that buyer needs closing cost help, right? That's $5,000, $6,000 gone like this. The deal might take just an extra 2 months. That's another $3,000, $4,000, $10,000 in interest gone. All right, so those numbers get eaten up quickly. That's why we're saying you should always have at least a minimum of $1 per square foot. If you're going to spend 30, you should make at least 30 when you're first getting started.
Yeah, and that's what I feel anyone should aim for starting out. You spend 30, try and make 30. You spend 40, try and make 40. You spend 50, try and make 50. As you can see, the number goes up on the net. This is net profit. Let's talk about that. This is not gross profit. This is not before you pay back your investors, your hard money lenders. This is net profit that you want to make per deal. And you're going to be pretty much in the black if you do this, the majority of the time.
The higher the number of the renovation, the more risk there is.
Yes.
Even if it's the same amount of renovation, right? Painting a 3,000 square foot house versus painting a 1,500 square foot house, right? If you lose that painter and you need to bring another painter in, it's going to be that much more expensive to have another contractor come in and try to help you out. So the more expensive and larger scope of work, the more your profit should be, right? Because a bigger house will just have, even if it's similar issues to a smaller house, those issues just cost more to repair. Right, not even if you or your contractor screwed up. Let's say you install an HVAC system in a big house, all right? Everything went well, it got installed, but now your HVAC gets stolen, right? To replace it is very expensive, way more in a bigger house than a smaller house. That's why your profit margin has to be bigger on bigger, more expensive rehabs, because a lot of things can go wrong and you want to have enough cushion. And that's what you want to explain to wholesalers, realtors, and anyone you work with. It's not that you just want to make more money, it's the risk is higher.
Yeah. Every single, the bigger the renovation, the more time, the more walls to open up, the more things that you can find, the more variables. So 100%. So we're not trying to do $1 million house flip or $1 million purchase and make $30,000. You don't want to do that. We're talking about probably about houses we can buy for $500,000, $400,000, around there. That's where $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 is acceptable. But even once the purchase price goes higher, bigger renovations, you want that larger profit to mitigate that risk.
Yeah, and also on those bigger houses or more expensive houses, right, when you do a price reduction, right, on a cheaper house, a price reduction, like a $250,000 house as an example. If I list a house for $250,000 and it's not moving, I'll maybe drop it to $239,000. But if I list a house for $550,000 and I drop it, I'm dropping it to $525,000, $25,000. That's another reason why you want that profit margin higher.
Awesome. So we nailed analyzing the property. That was step 3. Now let's go to step 4. Buy it. Buy the property. We've got to buy the property. Now the cool thing is, since we started with the end in mind, we already know the financing that we're going to use to buy this particular property.
Yeah.
But let's talk about on the front end, right? Because we're going to be buying the property. Eventually we'll be selling the property. There'll be a new buyer. Let's talk about the things you need to do to make sure that you buy this property.
Yeah, first of all, the day of closing, you have to make sure you go through that house one more time.
Yeah.
First of all, is it still there, right? If you're buying a house that's supposed to be empty with no tenants, no homeowners, have they moved out? I've definitely trusted someone, bought a house, people are still living there, and now there's nothing I can do, right? And now I have to go through the legal process of evicting them, costing me thousands of dollars, months of time.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, the day of closing, you want to show up and do that final walkthrough the morning of closing. Make sure the house is empty. If you're thinking you're getting appliances, the appliances are still there. Everything is in the order that you expect.
And once we do that, we can buy the property. And day 1, day 0, you should start the renovation as much as you can, right?
Yeah.
Get the team in there, go right into the rehab. So the buying part's pretty easy. Now that we've done all the underwriting, I would say, we have the fundraising. We're going to close either, depending on your state, with escrow, title, or an attorney, depending on what state you're in. Yeah. It's kind of about 50-50. 50% of the states use an attorney, 50% use escrow or title.
And to make sure that you can actually start the renovation day 1, like you're saying, have the utilities turned on the day of closing. You want to call your utility companies, your water, electric, and gas, and make sure you schedule the utilities to be transferred to you. Yeah. Sometimes they take a long time. Right, so you want to make sure you call before the closing day, but have it scheduled after, right? And not only that, you want to make sure you have insurance immediately the day you buy it, not the day after, right? Not a week after. Something can happen the day you buy it, and I've had that happen. I bought a house, it was empty, it was immediately broken into that same night. I lost an HVAC. All right, so things happen the day you buy it, so you want to have insurance and your utilities turn on as well.
Perfect. So once we have insurance, we have utilities, we've closed the deal, we got the financing, we get the keys.
Yep.
Now let's talk about the next step.
Yep.
And the next step is fixing it, actually fixing the property, also known as rehabbing or renovating the property. Now that we've got to this point, I mean, this is a very detailed oriented process, and if you've never flipped a house before, you don't know what you don't know. There are a lot of little things that you need to do in order to get a property up to spec, be able to sell to current market trends. And so let's dive into the renovation. Kind of what's the process from beginning to end?
Yeah, I mean, really simply, day 1, usually if you're doing a big renovation, you need to make sure you get permits, right? So you have to have contractors that are licensed and can pull the permits, right? Before you get the permits and get the process started, we typically will order a dumpster to arrive at the property so the trash can be put somewhere, not just piled outside and get us big fines from the inspectors. And also a lot of times if you're doing a big project where the toilets and bathrooms are being ripped out, you need to make sure you order a portable toilet. That's part of the requirement to pass any inspection, right? And it's the right thing to do for your contractors.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to pee on the side of your house.
That's not fun.
No, and I've had that happen, so ask me how I know. So first days, they come in, you're going to walk through, tell them what to demo. If you're going to rip out a lot of old stuff, they'll demo out. Usually takes a couple of days, and you might have to rotate a few dumpsters, right? Then usually your framers will come in, and this will be from the perspective of a big, large renovation, just so we can hit all the steps. Your framers will come in, get the house ready, put in any new rooms, open any walls, clean up any damaged wood. After the framers are finished and have passed their inspection, you'll move on to your mechanicals, which is your electrical, plumbing, and HVAC, right? So once those are done, and they all normally have their own inspection, in some areas they all are inspected at one time. Sometimes they're inspected by different inspectors, so those can take quite a while depending on where you live. Then you'll have to insulate the house. A lot of areas have professional companies that do it relatively easy and quickly, so that's not normally a big deal. Once the house is insulated, that's where you're probably taking about a month to sheetrock it, to paint it, right, to get everything ready. And you want to make sure at this point you have your windows and doors installed so you have heat and air, because normally sheetrock needs heat or air depending on the weather outside to dry or cool or whatever, right? Once the house is sheetrock, normally then you're putting on your trim, which is like your doors, your baseboards, and your crown if it's a little bit more of an expensive home. Then the home gets its paint, right? Once the home is painted, and you want to keep in mind when you're doing a big renovation, you want to go from the outside wall to the inside, right? So that means your framing, then the mechanicals that go inside the walls, then the insulation, then the sheetrock, then the cabinets. So you're working your way in. And same thing from the outside. You want to go from top to bottom, right? The most important thing to do is make sure the house is not leaking and damaging everything in there. So you put on a roof first, and then you work your way down. So that includes siding, windows, and at the end, landscaping and driveway. Now back on the inside, once the house is painted, you can put in your cabinets, your tile, your showers, all that kind of stuff, and bring back your mechanical subs to install your toilets, your sinks, your appliances, right? Normally at the end, we try to do carpet and flooring to make sure it doesn't get scratched or dirty. And then right after that, it's normally time to clean up the house and get it ready for sale. So that is a brief overview of the renovation process.
Kind of said it better myself. Now, when you're starting out and you don't know any of this, some great people to work with are general contractors and or a project manager. I know when I started out, I used general contractors that I found other investors that use these general contractors that liked and trusted them, and that made me feel more confident using a general contractor who isn't just a retail general contractor that's not familiar working with investors. I vetted this contractor and the other contractors to make sure that they had worked with investors. So
that's a good point.
How would you go about finding a general contractor that could help you with this renovation?
Yeah, look, when I got started and I moved to the area, I literally didn't know anyone, so I didn't even know who to ask. Normally, if you know people and you live in an area for a long time, you have friends of friends that had work done. So that's a good place to start. But if I were moving or starting in a new place, I would drive around and look at other projects and literally just stop there and talk to the contractors, give them our 30-second elevator pitch and see if they want to come work with us and if they're looking for more work. Because also while you're there, you can see their quality of work, right? And a lot of times they can refer you other contractors for the different trades you need.
One of my favorite things to do is that, Stan, drive around, find the properties that are being renovated, go to the property. You may see subcontractors or the general contractor, and you can find out who that GC is at the property and see if they're open to doing additional work, and you can also vet their work as well. It's just a fun thing to do. If you like real estate, you're in the business of flipping houses, and you're looking at newly renovated property in your area, it's what you should be doing.
Yeah, and I've met other investors that own those houses before that turned into friends, colleagues. I wholesale them some deals. I partner with them to do some deals. So yeah, you might even meet the owner of the house who's another investor, and that could turn into a big relationship. I've had some of my best relationships just like that. Other people doing projects in my area, and I find out, hey, they only have money to do two, but I know there's hard money lending, private lending, setup where I can fund a lot of deals. So how about I bring you deals and you do the work? Because look, the quality that you're doing here is awesome.
Now, what I do want to share with our community and the audience is a good golden rule of how long the renovation should take.
Yeah.
That way you know what to expect. One kind of rough rule I've used is that for every $10,000 in renovation, it should take about a week of work. And so, for example, if I have a $30,000 rehab, that's about 3 weeks. I'm going to say it's going to take about a month to rehab it. It's a rough rule.
Great rule of thumb.
But that rule helps me understand this ain't a 6-month renovation. This ain't a 3-month renovation. Standard team should be able to get this done in 30 days, which I think is super important. You know, it might be different per market or per GC. It might be $8,000 to $15,000 a week. But I think it's really important just so you have the right expectations and you're not having your projects take 8 months when they should be taking 4 months.
Yeah, and also this helps you estimate on the buying side how many months to put into your rehab deal calculator. Which will tell you how much interest you need to reserve in the bank, because you normally have to make monthly payments. So you'll know, in this one I might have to hold it for 2, 3, 4 months, so I need at least that much in the bank.
Yeah. So when we analyze our deals, we don't only understand the ARV, repairs, all the other costs, or purchase price, or holding costs. We analyze how long we're going to hold that property for.
Absolutely.
Because every day that goes on during a renovation, you're paying more in utilities, you're paying more in insurance, you're paying more in taxes, you're paying more in the actual financing fees. And so every day counts when doing a renovation, and that's why you just want to get it done as fast as possible, but of the quality that is needed as well. You don't want to skimp on quality, because then at the end of the day, that can reduce your buyer pool and just have more negative effects for you.
Yeah, and look, houses sell a lot slower during certain times of the year. So by knowing that, I'll know when the house will generally be ready for sale, right? At the end of the summer, a lot less people are buying because they don't want to move with their kids when school's about to start. Between Thanksgiving and the end of the year, because there's so many holidays, people are going on vacation, sales just stop. So I know to motivate my contractors or build in that extra holding cost to be cautious. If I know it's going to finish around the beginning or middle of the holidays, I'm going to add an extra month of holding because I know it's going to cost me extra, and no one's buying around Christmas typically.
It's important to note, sometimes the markets are cyclical, or generally they are around winter, holidays, summer, there's less kids in school, more families are willing to move. It's easier for families to move when their kids aren't in school. I mean, could you just imagine like taking your kids out of school, putting them in another school in February?
Right. Spring market is the buying season. That's when the most homes sell. So absolutely, timing is super important. Knowing when the house will be done and how long it's going to take, you can add those extra buffers in to maybe negotiate lower. Because holding costs do affect your profit.
Now, we've renovated the property. We've got it to where it needs to be, up to current market trends. Now let's talk about step 6. Getting it ready to sell and selling the property. I mean, this is the funnest part of it. You know, we've gotten to the end, all the way to step 6. Let's talk about that. Selling it for top dollar.
Yeah, so hopefully, the project went well and the house is getting ready to sell. Usually the last thing you do is a final clean and landscaping. Makes the inside and the outside just look beautiful, right? So those are the last 2 things you want to do on the inside and the outside, because you want to work your way out of the house. Same thing when you're doing your construction. On the exterior, it's top down. On the inside, it's outer walls to the inside. And when you're finishing, it's from the house back to the street, right? So the least amount of people will drive on the lawn, park on the lawn. For some reason, no matter how big your driveway or the street is, contractors love parking their trucks right on your grass. That's why we say do landscaping last. Now that the house is cleaned up, the landscaping is done, this is when you're typically getting in touch with your realtor and talking about the strategy. If you're working with a good realtor, they can guide you through this process.
Yeah, and this is why it's important to work with the appropriate realtor on this. You don't want to work with a normal retail realtor who's never worked with an investor. And one reason why we like to work with investor-friendly agents in this particular area is we like to negotiate the commission down on the resale side, which adds more profit, net profit as well. A lot of my flips that I've done, instead of a 2.5% commission in California, I always negotiate that down to 1.5%, because I'm telling them, hey, I'm going to be bringing you more properties. I'm serving this up for you on a silver platter, and I've never had any agent turn that down.
Yeah. Look, also, understanding the different companies that agents work with. will allow you to be a better negotiator. A lot of agents today will work for a brokerage that's taking maybe only a 10% split. So you know they're going to get a big part of your commission, versus you're working with an agent in a more traditional brokerage that might split it 60-40. So negotiating is more difficult because they're getting less money. Or a broker that's working in a flat fee brokerage, they're getting, they're paying maybe $500 per transaction, so they get most of the commission. That tells you how much you can negotiate. So understanding where the agent works, what their splits are, will allow you to negotiate as well.
Great. So we've got the agent. We're selling the property. We're probably going to put it on the market at our ARV that we analyzed. In most markets, the listing agreement is probably going to be about 90 days or so. Some agents may try and tie you down for 6 months on an exclusive listing agreement, but we recommend to do 90 days, because if they're not selling that property in 90 days, something's going wrong, right? Like there's something wrong with the property, there's something wrong with that agent, there's something wrong with the marketing. We have to figure out what that is and create that fix in case the property's not selling.
Yeah, like before the 2008 financial crash or the housing crash, 6 months was common because there was a lot of inventory, homes would sell slowly, so that made sense. But since 2008, there's been a low amount of inventory. That's why now is a great time to fix and flip, because the United States will need decades to fix their inventory crisis. Right? Yeah. So an agent should not need more than 90 days. If you list the house at the right price, you have the right agent and markets it, you will not need more than 90 days. So that automatic 6 month is just a default from decades of agents working in normal markets. But now we're in a time where inventory is and will be low for the foreseeable future.
And whatever agent you use, I mean, immediately, as soon as you put that house on the market, you want them holding open houses. You want as much traffic as you can, foot traffic, neighborhood traffic, going to your property to get as many offers as you can, and for them to see this new product, this new design that you've just brought into the neighborhood. And one of the first houses I flipped, I also got this awesome feeling of, oh my gosh, I'm reducing crime rates in the area. I'm actually increasing values of property for all the other neighborhoods in the area. Absolutely. And it was this feeling that was unanticipated. And you've been able to do that at scale. I've been able to do that many times over again throughout the years. But there's this pride, the sense of pride that comes once you're at this stage. All this hard work, it's a lot of hard work. And you really get rewarded for the value you bring. And it's all these little things that end up being a great product, and neighbors come by and say, oh my gosh, this is beautiful, thank you so much for what you've been doing. And then also their prices are going up as well, so they're happy.
Yeah, I mean, when the first house that I bought that I lived in, I think the highest price point in that neighborhood was probably $200,000. All right, so there was just not a lot happening there. There's a lot of abandoned houses. By the time I finished, the houses were selling at $500,000, because I focused on one neighborhood, and I actually did a strategy called we're just trying to improve the whole street. So I put 6 houses under contract on the same street, because I knew I can increase my own values by buying the whole street, which I did. Right. So I picked my own neighbors by me buying the houses, me renovating them, improving the whole street. So there's a lot of cool strategies when you're getting into these neighborhoods to, like you said, improve the values of everyone, and the neighbors were happy. Yeah.
That's awesome. I think that's the buy the block strategy.
Yep.
All right, so now that we're selling the property, we're getting offers in. I mean, there might be FHA loans. There may be conventional loans. There may be cash offers. Yeah. There may be VA loans. You mind just briefly talking about those?
Yeah, typically I've seen 5 types of financing come in on offers. And like you said, the most common is going to be conventional, which is anywhere from 5 to 20% down loan from a well-qualified buyer. Normally it's not their first home, right? Then if you're working in a first-time home buyer area, you'll get a lot of FHA loans, which are government-backed loans that are typically 5 to 0% down loans that will require you as a seller to pay for one of 2 mandated appraisals. And so sometimes those people are not as well qualified. They're buying their first home. They need help with seller closing costs. So if you're selling a home in a first-time home buyer area, you'll more than likely need to budget $5,000 to $6,000 in closing costs help when you're buying the deal on the deal analyzer. Then after that, we do see a good amount of VA loans, which are loans that are also government-backed for veterans and their families if they've served. And those are also usually well-qualified buyers. The loans are great, normally always close. We've had a good experience. Then if you're working in more rural areas, we get a lot of USDA loans, which is the United States Department of Agriculture, meant for more rural areas to become developed. So they're giving out these 100% finance loans that are almost always closing. They are a little slow, 45, 60 days sometimes, but they almost always get to the finish line. And finally, we do get a lot of cash offers. You know, we wish all offers were cash offers, but normally these folks still want you to inspect, so still go through the inspection process. They normally won't do an appraisal. They normally just want the house. They don't care. It's the easiest closing timeline, and this is normally a closing that can happen as fast as 14 days. So those are the 5 types of financing you should expect.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's not going to be much more than that. That you're going to see those types of offers. You're going to see those types of loans, and then you pick one, and then you move on to the closing of a deal. Now the buyer's going to they're going to do their inspections, of course, to make sure everything's good. Lots of times what comes up is a request for repairs, which is when the buyer requests for repairs and they have an inspector come, and sometimes you get an inspector that's very nitpicky and you have to maybe give the seller some credits, maybe fix some things. Sometimes you get inspectors that aren't too picky.
Yeah. And typically we like to offer a couple different steps to get through that process. First and foremost is always just offering a credit. Just they take a little bit of money. If they want to spend it to fix those things or go on a family vacation, cool, but that's less work and headache for you. All right. Then if they have a contractor, maybe the buyer's agents often have maintenance contractors. They might give you a pretty decent quote. If you think that's a good price and your own contractors are not going to be much more, maybe still give them the credit, let their guys do it after closing, and then be done with it. And finally, you can do the work yourself, hire someone, fix it up, hopefully they're happy, and then get the deal closed. So those are really the 3 steps in that order that I would recommend that a potential seller selling a fix and flip home would go.
Perfect. And now just to wrap up selling it, we pass the inspections, we fix what we need to fix. It's closing day, depending on the state. You're using escrow, title, or attorney. It's our favorite day.
Absolutely.
It's when the check comes or the wire comes. Anything you want to add about closing day?
Look, a lot of times we recommend when you buy a house to fix and flip, you put it in an LLC for your protection. Make sure you have a bank account for that LLC so you can actually deposit the money. Because even though you might be the only owner of that LLC, the check or the wire has to be made out to that name. And a bank will require you to have an account to cash that check. You normally won't be able to take it anywhere and cash it. You'll have to have some sort of account, right? So you need to make sure you have a bank account to put that money somewhere, and also make sure your bills stop by canceling insurance and utilities the day of closing.
Perfect. Yeah, you don't want to be stuck without a bank account and not be able to get your money. So that's a great point.
I've definitely made the mistake of thinking a buyer is going to automatically transfer utilities to their name to get a water bill a month later and be like, how come you didn't do it? Well, it's really on you as the seller to make sure you cancel your services the day after closing, which is a kind of ethical thing to do. Now, because it's a weekend, they have kids, they're moving in, it's a lot for someone. So if you're closing on a Friday, schedule the services to be disconnected on the Monday, because the utility companies are typically closed on the weekend, so there's nothing these buyers can do. But you do want to make sure you do cancel them or set them to be canceled. I've definitely had multiple times where the buyers did not do their job, no one told them to, and I ended up paying an extra month to utilities.
So obviously you can see Stan has a lot of experience. You want to remember all these little things so you're not stuck paying extra fees. Because once you close the deal and you get your check, whether it's $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, you want to move on to the next one. You want to move on. You want to keep multiplying your money as much as possible. And as you can see, there's a lot of little things here when it comes to flipping a house. And we want to be as thorough as possible on this. We want to make one of the best YouTube videos possible on this topic of flipping a house. And so we did cover those steps. Let's run through them again. Fund it, right? Fund it. We want that financing. It's what it's how we're going to be able to buy the deal. We want to do it first. We always here at Real Estate Skills, we always want to begin with the end in mind, right? We don't ever want to be caught blindsided on anything that's to come. And I've just seen so many people get excited about finding the deal, right? They've watched the TV show, Flip This House. I've got the deal. And then they can't buy it because they can't bring the money. So we got fund it. We got 2, find it. We talked about the MLS offer system. We talked about wholesalers. We got 3, analyze it. We talked about the big 3. the ARV, the purchase price, the repairs.
Yep.
What else we got? We got buy it. Buy it's easy now at this point,
normally, yep.
right? Because we have the financing lined up because we work smarter, not harder.
That's right.
And then you did a phenomenal job covering the fix it section.
Yeah.
You know, the most important thing after you bought the property, the actual renovation, keeping it on time, making sure everything's done in the right order.
Yep. And like you said, when you buy the house is when you make money.
Yes.
When you project manage it, that's when you keep or lose money. And then when you sell it, that's when you collect the money.
And so the great thing about this, what we're sharing with you, is that this is material that has changed our lives. I've seen you grow throughout the years. You've seen me grow throughout the years. A lot of us have followed the steps of wholesaling, then wholesaling, fixing and flipping, and then rolling our profits and buying and holding real estate. And that's what we'd love to teach others to do. It's a proven path. And so if you are interested in learning more about that, just go to realestateskills.com/training and we'll cover how to wholesale, how to fix and flip, how to roll those profits into buy and hold deals so that you can build long-lasting wealth. That's what we're interested in, having more time with our families and not really having to worry about working an hourly job, but doing things that, you know, we can work in real estate, get experience, leverage that experience, learn what a good deal is, bad deal is, and then roll those profits back into real estate. And you know, one thing we always talked about is like this compounding learning and tilting the scales and stacking rocks in our favor. And for me, I know being active in real estate, making active income, and then rolling that money back into real estate, getting a passive income, has just provided so many benefits because I'm not working like a software job and then trying to learn real estate and like I'm all discombobulated. It just allows me to really stack these rocks. And I've seen your evolution of that to where not only are you wholesaling, fixing, and flipping, but you're also buying multifamily projects. We're partnering on multifamily projects. And we're not just talking about 10-unit apartments, we're talking about 100, 200-unit apartment buildings. Awesome. Well, that was a ton of value, Mr. Gendlin. I appreciate you coming here and sharing that with the whole entire audience. I know everyone's gonna get a ton of value from it. Please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Please leave a comment if you have any questions. We'll be sure to respond. And Stan, anything else?
Look, I mean, that was a lot of content for the fix and flip process. There's obviously a lot more. Those were the general ideas and some of the best golden nuggets that I have when it comes to fix and flipping. So hopefully people learned a lot.
Awesome, man. I know they will. Thank you, Stan.